So what happens is stuff, ma'am? Stuff, ma'am. Okay. Okay, so that's 3 lines before it spreads, yeah? Ahu discarta. So the subject has been talking about
Camera, please. Camera, please.
camera. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Where am I over here? How does this go? Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Welcome, Shaul.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Thank you. So we're on Daf Mem, about 3 lines before it spreads. And the subject has been talking about if that the Eved Kanani has 2 issues. One is the monetary ownership that the master owns him, and the other one is that he has the halachic status of being an Eved, and in order to marry Bas Yisrael, he has to get out of that to be upgraded to a Jew. And the subject was when somebody doesn't, so far disowning Hefker, or other cases where the Ger Shameis case that has no relatives. So the ownership is now disowned. And the question was about the Isser, the status that he has as Eved. Is it possible or necessary or unnecessary, or what happens to the Isser, the status that he has, that he's an Eved? Does it automatically go off also, or does it remain, but somebody can take it off, or it remains and nobody can take it off? So that's what the issue we're middle of over here. The Gemara spoke about that. It could be that the person himself, the owner, even though after he disowns the Eved, he still has the right, the power, and the necessary that he should be Meshachrer him in order to upgrade his status. But the son maybe does not have the right, he doesn't inherit this authority, he only inherit money. He don't inherit authority to make him free. So that's been the sugya. Now the Gemara continues with the story. Who discarded the Avdi, this Davon the Goy. Discarded Rashi says means a city. Maybe there's other attribution. Karta, discarta. So discarta. So Rashi says it means a city. There was a city of Avadim, maybe whatever, a lot of Avadim that was sold to a Goy. A Jew owned Avadim Canaanim. He sold them to a Goy. That we'll see there. And Rashi brings down the Gemara later on that says Yatzal Lacheris. I don't know if it's a special takana. We'll see as we get there. But if he sold, means the ownership he gave away. He sold the ownership of the Avadim Canaanim to a Goy. So he is talking about, let's just keep in mind about monetary ownership, and then there's also a status. So if a Jew sells Avadim to a Jew, so then the Jew, the buyer, now owns him, and he also has the authority over making him a free man in order to upgrade his status. But here he sold him to a Goy. The Goy just has the ownership of these Avadim Canaanim. And these later owners, Kolu means they got finished with, they died, whatever the case would be. There was nobody left over there. It seems there was no Yorshim either. There was no issue. They got rid of their new masters. The Goyim who had bought them were no more. So then don't go back to the original master. He sold them. And Rashi also brings down that so there's no issue about their monetary ownership. Nobody owns them. But the question was, a Jew, and they sold them to a Goy. Maybe that's enough already to disown them because he sold them. He got money for them, or he shouldn't have, right? And also Rashi brings down Yatzal Lacheris. So there's no issue about the ownership, since the Jew sold them to a Goy, and now the Goy is not around anymore, so they're unowned. But the question is about their status. They want to marry Jews. So also look, I made the Ravina. They came to Ravina to ask about what their status is. Go to find the children of the original owners. Means the original owner died already. It seems the mocher, the one who had sold them, died. If he still be around, so he would go to him and he would give the get shechra. But he's not around anymore. So go to his children. Figure out, go find out who are the children of the original owners. And they should write get shechra, or they should be able to marry a Jewish woman. So that was the question yesterday. That was the question. Ravina. Amema doesn't say that. So Amema said that you can't give over, you can't bequeath this authority. If somebody is mafkir his a slave, so there's no ownership, and he, the balabais, is still the old balabais, is still the one who'd be able to authorized the get shechur, but he died. So he says there's no eitzah, ain't no takana. There's no way that he can get mutter to marry a Jewish woman because the owner died and he doesn't give over to his children the authority to give a get shechur. So you're saying that he does. You're saying that the children could yarshin, they inherit the authority to give the get shechur. So you're against Amema. The truth is the Gemara argued, I remember a page ago, and over there it said that you don't have to. Over there was Ula of Yochanan. The Gemara says that Ula Amema was difficult because over there it's mashma that the death of the owner, dissolves the Isser also. Here he didn't. Here also the original owner also died. What's the difference if over there that he died and he doesn't give it over to the children, like Mafkir Avdo Mace, or over here that he sold his ever to the guy and then he died, the goyim died. So also should be the same case. That according to the other mandam over there, he shouldn't need to get chayros. So the Gemara is yeah. If you don't need to get chayros, means you can marry Jewish. So there's three opinions going on. The Gemara doesn't put them all together. It's interesting. The Gemara had two over there and over here. The Gemara deals with the other possibility. The question is, does he need to get shechur? Maybe he needs to get shechur and it's possible for the children to give it, or he needs to get shechur and he can't get it. There are three opinions flying around there. So Ravina is the one who said he needs to get shechur and the children could give it. And the Rashi Amemah said that he needs to get shechur and he can't get it. Amalahu anok Ravdimi Sfiruli. So Ravina said, "Hold Ravdimi." Ravdimi before said up on top of the page, it said over here by Ravdimi that if somebody said that when Plonish Chasi Al Yishtabduba Lachamosi, that when he was dying, he said that I don't want that my children should work with her, subjugate her after I die. And the Gemara learns that that's a lesson of shechur. He already was mafker her. He disowned her. Not that he just gave instructions, but he disowned her. So it says over there, Avdimi said, "Kofin in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Kofin is a Yorshim, Kosin Loget Shechur." So that means that the Yorshim do inherit. Rabbi Yochanan said that the Yorshim inherit the right, the authority to give a get. So I look Avdimi. You're saying Amemra said you can't. Rabbi Yochanan said that you could. The Gemara asks, Amu Lei. They told back to Ravina, to Avdimi to Usai, there was a mistake over there because Rabbi Rabasi said that that's not a lashon of shechur. That when he says Dal Yishtabduba, that doesn't mean that there goes free. The children are still avadim. So Avdimi is wrong. Amalahu Maitu said the Amr B'Lashon Shechur. Amr B'Lashon Shechur Achinami. There was a mistake over there, but it's a technical mistake. Avdimi quoted Rabbi Yochanan saying that when you say Al Yishtabduba, that's a term, that's a legal term that is a way of shechur, a way of liberating, and that's a mistake. It's not. Just to say that doesn't mean that I'm freeing her. So that was the reason why it's wrong. But if you would have said a good lashon shechur, so there was no kasha on Avdimi's halacha, and the halacha would be that the children are the ones who inherit the authorization to give a get. So I hold like that. And the Gemara ends off. There was a story over there. So the din is go for Nesayoshem because we'll not get shechur. And the Gemara understands that means Ali Shtabdaba was a way that he meant to free her by saying to him that I don't want my Yorshim to work with her, that meant to subjugate, that means that she freed her now. And therefore the Yorshim have to give to get shechur. And Rabbi Basi said, that's not a lashon shechur. She's still a complete, that's not a lashon shechur. That was a mistake. But besides that mistake, the statement wasn't disregarded. And it is true maybe that Rabbi Yochanan said that if somebody freed a slave, the ownership, not to get shechur, just the monetary ownership. So the Yorshim are authorized to give a gift. So Ravina said, I hold like Avdimi. And the Gemara ends off, Ilchas like Ravina. That's how we pass like Ravina. So it's very interesting that yesterday, the day before, or maybe it's 2 days ago, already, and over there was two shittas. If the master that doesn't have any monetary value dies, if the Isser on the slave, the status also dissolves and automatically gets upgraded. That was one quote. And remember, as the other extreme and says that he needs to get shechur, nobody could give it to him. And now it comes out that we pass like neither one of them. Here we paskin that the Yorshim do inherit the authorization to free the Eved. So in this case, it does make a difference. No, you're talking about the mitzvah l'kam dev yameis. It's not our subject now. Now we're talking about if the master disowned, whatever way the case was, he disowned him, he's mafkir him. he gave away the mominus, or whatever case it would be here. He sold it to a guy. Also, he gave away the mominus part. But he still was not given a get shikra. He still didn't get upgraded in his status. So the question was if the Yorshim are authorized to do that, and Amir said not, and Elo Takana has nothing to do for him. And here we paskin not like him. We paskin that Hilchas Ravina, like Radimi was going to say, and he does give over. A person when he dies, he authorizes. He bequeaths the authorization to free the slave. So if this slave either mafkavdo or mace, or this case over here that he sold the Eved to Goyim, and then everybody died, he died, the Goyim died. So these Avadim that they have no owner, but they never got a Shtar Shechur, so the Yorshim are authorized to give the get Shechur. Doesn't make a difference if he came in. That's not the same. What's that? They have the authority because they're Yorshim. They have the authority because they're Yorshim. New story, 4 lines in the bottom. Who Abda debate trade? This I don't know why it comes in here. It's interesting about a button, but I don't see that as much to Rasugit. Who Abda debate trade come? There was a Evet that was owned by 2 people, owned by partners, 2 Citrin, owned an Evet. And one of them freed his half. One of them got up. It doesn't mean physically, but he made the move and he freed his half. So now the result is called the Chasiyev Chasi Ben Chorin. It really has to do with the Mishnah coming up, the next Mishnah that will talk about a Chasiyev Chasi Ben Chorin. If you have a man who's half a slave, half free. So the Mishnah says later on that he's not able to marry anybody. There's a problem. He can't marry anybody because since he's a half slave, he can't marry a Bas Chorin. He can't marry a regular Jewish woman. Since he's a half Ben Chorin, he can't marry a Shifcha. So he has nobody to marry. So the Mishnah says later on, they made a takana that we forced the remaining master on half to free his half. And he's losing money. So we tell the Eved, who's now going to become freed, that you have a debt. Whenever you get money, you have to pay back the debt of your half of your value. To the remaining, right? To the remainder, right? So we forced the remaining master to free his half, and he gets a check, post-dated check, that we hope will one day be covered, that the slave who's now freed is going to have to pay back. Yes, Hamdan? We certainly spoke about it. I don't remember if we said the Mishnah inside. It's going to be a next Mishnah. Maybe we'll even touch up on it today. I don't know. Yes, right. That's what's going to override. Oh, that's where we had it. That's where we mentioned it. Right over there, it says that even though you're not supposed to free a slave, I forgot if the Gemara brings it down. The Gemara brought about a minion. I forgot if it brings this. Okay, but it's true. Everyone's saying right. It's true. Now the remaining master, he knew what's going to happen. That they're going to come knocking on his door. The best then, and the police are going to come. You have to free your slave. It wanted to avoid that. You had a scheme how to avoid that. We hope. Like this Eved has no money. He's not going to, when he starts, he's going to get free. He's going to start working until he finds a job. And he also has to support himself. He has to be able to eat. He has to get enough money to pay back his value. Eved is worth a lot of money. Eved is a lot of money. So what is he going to get back his money? So I'm absolutely no. The rabbis are going to hear about it, and they're going to make me lose. So I have a plan. So he gave the slave, the half a slave that he owns, he gave it to his minor son. He had a son who was a minor, a 10-year-old, and he gave him a present. So what's the problem? The Bezdin was not going to force the 10-year-old. Bezdin doesn't do such things. They don't force 10-year-olds. So it's safe. So Rav Yosef, the son of Rabba, he sent this question to Rabba. What should we do? That he's supposed to be free. This man, this Eved cannot marry. This Chatziyev cannot marry anybody. And usually, right, he gets to his son, and his son is protected. That the Bezdin is not going to twist his arm. The adult owner, the father, Bezdin would twist his hand. Oh, because right. So it seems in the Gemara that he technically would. Now, if you, that I also thought so, but you see now in the Gemara, we're going to see that he has the ability to do it. If the katan is going to free him, he's old enough that he can make such a decision. And it's called Perutos Memkar and Memkar or Memkar Memkar. They are old enough to make a deal. Even
let's look at. They say you should not be makir as a rule the katan because he can't give it back to you.
And over here, he cannot be makir. Yeah, Rashi says it's talking about over here. A kid is old enough. Perutos Memkar. I don't know if that Gemara. I never thought about it, or if I did, I forgot about it. That maybe the one is talking about that he's not old enough to make a deal. To it says Perutos. There's a certain age that he has enough Perutos. Is that going to be a number of days? Rashi brings it. Tinok zeh. Mekho mekach umemkor memkar b'metatlen k'detnan aputos mekho mekach umemkor memkar b'metatlen. Rashi brings a Gemara coming up on Dafnin test. When we get there, we should look into this question if not to find that why by the lulav is it impossible for him to be makner the lulav. If he's old enough, aputos means a young child, but he's old enough that he understands business, so he's allowed to make a sale. So how come he can't make a gift? Here it says he also could free a slave. The only problem we're going to see that. The only problem is we can't force him. So I didn't think about all this. So I hope that we'll see it. The problem is the problem. Yeah, that's not a problem. That the Gemara says you could do it. That's cheres makna over there, especially because someone's giving it to him. There's a das cheres makna. Somebody is the giver, so it's easy to make it. Then he can make it. Here we're taking it. Yeah. No. Yeah. Yes. Now we're talking about yes, it's true, everything. Now we're talking about the other issue. The issue is if he could free him. And here it says he could free him. But the only question is that we can't force him. That was what the scheme of the father was. So Rav Yosef Breder Rav Chama didn't know what to do. Rav Yosef Breder the Rava didn't know what to do. So he sent Rav Papa Deben Yetza, Shalach Lei, Rav Papa sent back, just like he did, it should be done to him. His retribution. No, he's not cursing him. He's saying that we're going to do the same thing. He's a schemer. We're also going to be a schemer. We're going to outsmart him. He's going to get onto his head his retribution. Means whatever he did, he's going to get back on his head. We're also going to make a trick. We know that children like money. So we'll convince, we'll persuade the child to free him. We could do that. You give him 10 shekels, you buy a lollipop, big lollipop. Didn't say that yet. So far it said, we know that children like money. So therefore we'll do like this. So we'll skip the words a second about that. We'll skip it a second. We'll come back in a second. But what it does say is that we know that children are like money. So we're going to shake a bag of money. Is to shake, and we'll juggle some money over there, and we'll tell the child, if you free him, we're going to give you what Chaim David said, 10 shekel or whatever, and he's going to write a gittin to chirus al shmei. He writes to get chirus. He is authorized to write to get chirus, even though he's a katan. He's allowed to free him. Why do you have apotropos for? So apotropos means a guardian. So that you only make in order to make sure that he gets a good price. That apotropos will make sure that when he writes the check to the master of how much I owe you, have an IOU note for my value, how much is he worth? So you have to make sure that he shouldn't be fooled, and the Eved shouldn't make a small price. He should write a check, IOU note for the full value. That's what the apotropos for. But the authority, and Rashi says the apotropos is not authorized to free slaves. It doesn't have such an authorization to free slaves. It's only there to take care of the child, not to free. But we are going to be the ones who are going to persuade the child to free him. But we want to make sure that he's not going to be cheated out by how much money is going to eventually be paid when the Eved is going to pay. So we make apotropos to make sure that his interests are taken into consideration. What? Doesn't cost any money. Why does it cost more? Oh, the money, 10 shekel, 10 shekel, that's right. You're talking about the Karkish Lizuzi. How much money is that? So that's the 10 shekel, whatever you need to make it feel. So it doesn't have much to do with Asugi. Also, Asugi is talking about when there's a split between the monetary and the status, but this Sugi was not about that. So it's interesting. I don't know how it came in, but it was nice. And we go on. Taner Rabbanan. If somebody says the following terms, are they considered terms of freeing a slave? Why? It's going to have three examples. Asisi Ploni Avdi. The Gemara is going to say in a couple of lines that he writes this in a star. Asisi Ploni Avdi ben Chorin. I'm sorry, I stopped in the wrong place. Asisi Ploni Avdi ben Chorin. I made Ploni, my slave, free. That's one term. Another case. Ploni Avdi Asui ben Chorin. My slave is made of ben Chorin. Or the third possibility of what he said. Arehu ben Chorin. Ploni, my slave, is hereby free. Any one of these three terms, Arehu ben Chorin. So just if I'd be able to mark it up, I would make the case and the psak. There are three cases over here, and there's one psak in all of them. They're all is a good term of liberating him. Either he says Asisi Ploni Avdi ben Chorin, or he says Asui ben Chorin, or he says Harehu ben Chorin. All of these three, the halacha is Harehu ben Chorin. But if he says Esenu ben Chorin, Ploni, my slave, I'm going to make him a ben Chorin. That's what he writes in the shtar. So that's a machlokes. If that's considered that he freed him, he says, I'm going to. Does that mean I'm going to right now? That's what I'm doing right now? Or he means in the future, I'm going to do it one day when I decide to. Rabbi Omer Kana, Rabbi says that is a way of freeing him. It's also a good way of freeing him. Because it just means to say, I'm going to, but he didn't do it. Rabbi Yochanan is hereby, it means like it's as if he's saying, yeah, it's as if he said he is hereby made a ben chorin. And the first one is a little bit bigger chiddush that I made him. When did I make him? Right now. That's also good enough. You would have thought that Sisi means if he would be saying I did, and it means he's being molded that I did, that would be understandable. But he's not saying that. He's saying I did, I never did, but right now, by giving the contract right now, I have done it. So that's a chiddush that is also considered presently being done. So either Asisi or Asui or Harehu, all this is a good lashon. Same was a machlokes. What? Right. The Gemara said it before the beginning. Yeah. Harehu. That means hereby. The Gemara made it in the beginning of the parak. The Gemara said it's chiddush also by Harehu Batel. Over there, I brought it right from Harehu Hektish. When you say Harehu Hektish, that's a good way of saying he is hereby. So too, he is hereby. He's the Eved. He's the Eved. And he says, you're hereby a ben chorin. So that means I'm hereby making you a ben chorin. Yeah. Okay. It's not enough Gilo Das that he wants to make a ben chorin. He has to be shachrim. He has to free him. He has to be in the words that he is hereby doing it. If he just says, I'd like to, or I did, I'm going to, but he really didn't do it, so he didn't. So it has to be that you say these words are a way of saying, I'm hereby doing it. So all these terms they pass. All these terms are a way of saying, I'm going to do it. If he says, I'm going to, it's a machlokes. Rabbi says that also is good enough. Kind of means that the slave becomes free. It's another way of saying, it works. He acquires himself. Come say no, because he just said, I'm going to do it one day. But wait for the day. He never did it yet. He just promised he's going to do it. But he didn't do it yet. All these terms we're talking about, they wrote in the star. He wrote in the star, Asisi ben Chorin, Arehu ben Chorin, Asui ben Chorin, Esenu, everything we're talking about, he wrote it into the star. So Rashi says that saying it is not good enough. That's what Rashi explains over here. That saying somebody's free is not good enough. Here he says, here's the Rashi. When it says a Omer, it means that he's writing it. He wrote one of these Lashonis and he gave it over to him. But just saying it alone is not a ben chorin, and if he wants to, he could retract. He didn't make a kinyan. And Rashi says, whenever somebody says it doesn't happen only if he makes a kinyan. So if someone says to a slave, you are hereby free, they didn't make a kinyan on it yet. If he makes a kinyan with a suda, with a handkerchief or something, but if he didn't, so then he could retract his words. Without a star, then he's a neved. He's still a neved. So mafkir after the question will be about mafkir. Maybe he's talking about mafkir though. Even mafkir. So one. Hmm. So why is mafkir avdo? That'll be a question. Why is if someone's mafkir something, you have to write it with a shtar. If you're mafkir, so why is it not enough to be mafkir by words also? What's v'kula b'shtar? So here Rashi says v'kula b'shtar. If somebody just said it, he still could retract because it didn't make a kinyan. So Rashi says it doesn't work. Rashi says that he could retract. We're not talking about the shtar. The shtar, of course, even if someone's mafki, you need the shtar to get the official get cheres in order to become upgraded in status. That's what we're speaking about for 2 pages already. But Rashi is saying something else. Rashi is saying even as far as disowning him, Rashi says that he could be chos as long as he didn't make a kinyan, and that why should it be different than every after? Every time you mafka something, you have to write a contract to somebody. You just say it's mafka. You could reject it. You could if somebody came back. Maybe here he wasn't after. He said, "I'm giving you to yourself. I'm giving you to like the word kana." Maybe that fact that he's saying he's giving him to himself. So then he wasn't mafkir. If he said I'm mafkir, so maybe that's how it works. That he's mafkir by you verbally also. But if I'm giving it, so just by saying I'm giving it didn't happen until making it. Maybe that's the answer. Okay, and the Gemara says the same thing over again, a different application. Instead of talking about an eved, now the Gemara is going to talk about Tanur Rabbanan. You can take out the 2 das if you want. Ha'omer, the sati, same thing over again, but here it's talking about a sada. Instead of talking about a eved, it's going to say the same thing over again about a field. Somebody said Nasati sada ploni saploni, or he said Nasuna ploni, or he said Areyu Shalom. All these 3 cases Areyu Shalom. If somebody said in the shtar, like the was going to say in 2 lines, in the shtar he wrote, I gave this in this field to ploni, or he said it's given to ploni, or he said it's ploni's. That's all good terms of giving over. And if you gave him such a shtar that says these words, it's a good kinyan and the recipient owns it. But if you said at he gave somebody a present. He gave somebody a shtar that says this field has been given to you, is given to you. It's yours. That's all good lashonas of giving. But if he said at ploni, it says in the shtar, this field I'm going to give to Ploni. That's the machlokis. Before we had Rebbe, he also changed the gears. Rebbe Yomer Kana, does it mean to say, I promise I'm going to give it? He promised he's going to give, but he didn't give it yet. Or does it mean that he's hereby giving it? Machlokis also. Once again, the case here is that he wrote it in the shtar and he gave it the shtar over to him. That's the way that's a kinyan. If he just said it, he could retract. Even in the good lashonos, he could still retract. New issue. Somebody says, I made my slave free. Here he's saying, it's not a question of hereby doing it. Here he's saying historically, I made my slave free. And the slave says it's not true. And the slave says he didn't. Yes, but in the context of the Bryson before, you see that it's talking about the issue is he's doing it now, and here the issue is if he did it already. So you're right, the words is the same words, you're right. So here the case is that he admits that I have made my slave free, and the slave says he's lying. He never made me free. So if the master wants it, he can make him free now. But the case is that the master wants to retract after the slave. Yeah, the slave says he didn't make it. He didn't make me free. And then the master says, okay, I'll take you. And maybe the master, that's the question. Do we believe the master or do we believe the slave? Once he was molded that he freed him, maybe he overrides what the slave said. And he can't take it back anymore. Now the slave says he didn't. It's not true. But if you say so, so we say that the Ever doesn't know. Just because the slave doesn't know that he made him a ben chorin, it's because he wasn't there. It could be that the master freed him remotely, that he wasn't there, so the Ever doesn't know about it. So there's no contradiction. The slave says, I don't know that, as far as I know, he never freed me. And the master says he did free him. So it could be very well that he freed him. So we trust the master and there's no contradiction. But what if he told him, not that I freed him, I said, I gave him the shtar shichur, not that I just freed him remotely. I gave him the shtar shichur. And then if David says he didn't, that's already a contradiction. He never gave it to me. So then, so then we consider what the slave said, that Odos Baldin. Odos Baldin means if somebody admits that he owes money or something, so then he owes money because he admitted. So here too is an admittance that he's still a slave. So even though the master said I freed him, but it's like saying that I say you don't owe me money, and then he says you do owe me money, I do owe you money. So that's considered a dos baldin k'mei edim. It's like we have 100 witnesses, and we believe the Eved because he's the one who's obligating himself. So too. So here the Eved says, you never freed me. The story that says you said at Tuesday 10 o'clock, whatever, you gave me something, you didn't. So we believe the Eved, and the master now is allowed to take him back as a slave. If he wants to free him now, he can free him now. But if it's only freeing him because he said I did, that Eved outdid him by admitting that you did not free him. Right. Katapti even a shatilo, and he says no, you didn't. There's the kasha, which I don't know what the answer is exactly. That how come it's not considered a dos baldin on the part of the owner? He says, I admit that I did free him. Why is his admittance more of an admittance than the Eved? Teshus talks about it. I don't remember what his answer was, or I didn't understand it. The dos baldin, but no sin lo amrinonachi. The palm himself was shekibel miyoda was zachabav ulo kibel. Okay, Teshus is also in a case. In certain cases, it could be that the nosein, the giver, he thought that he gave, and the other person received it, and really he didn't receive it. I don't know. Teshus is saying it's just a certain case, but there would be cases that, according to the way Teshus explains, it would be that sometimes that it's can't be explained that he thought so, but he really didn't. Then tak will be a dos baldin on the part of the nosein also, right? Then what do? I don't know. Another. What does it say now? Who's talking? This is a brisa, right? Same thing goes by a field also. Only that he's going to be an Eved. Over here would be that he's still an Eved, and he's also to marry a Jew. So why is it? Why do you say that? Here. Unless you say that Issa goes together with the Mominist. If he was freed, I don't know the answer. Yes, then the Bible says the same thing over again by the field. The same thing. Nasati said the plonus the ploni. One the owner of the field, the original owner of the field says I gave it to somebody as a present. He says no, you didn't. So same thing. It could be that the recipient doesn't know about it because it could be that the giver gave it to somebody else, make a kinyan for somebody because so it could be that the recipient got it without knowing about it. So it's not considered a contradiction. But if he said I gave him a contract and he says he didn't give me a contract, the owner of the field says I gave him a rosh and I gave it to him, and he says he never gave it to me. So once again, the dos baldin k'meidim dami, and the recipient does not get it, and the giver is allowed to take it back and say that he says that I didn't give it. And again, the question would be that he's also dos baldin. So that's Teshus kasha. There was a question: mi'achol peiros. So who is the one who's going to be eating the produce of the field from now on? So we would say, if he does paskin a second ago, that dos baldin, the recipient admits he never got it, so therefore goes to the giver. So the giver is the owner of the field, and he should be able to eat the produce. The giver is the one who's allowed to eat the peiros because we're saying that the recipient never received it, and therefore belongs to the owner, the giver, and he's allowed to continue eating peiros. That sounds what we would say. But Rabba says that you take the peiros and give it to a third party, put it into a, what do you call it? Escrow. And then we'll find out when Mashiach comes, or whenever it's going to be verified what happened. So what's the case? How come Rabba says Mishal Shana Saperos? How come? If you say that Hadas Baldin of the recipient and the giver gets it back, so let him eat the Peiros, below pligi, depends if it's the father or the son, means the recipient or the recipient's son. The recipient himself who says I never got it, that's Hadas Baldin. But the son of the recipient, the father's not around anymore, and the son says that my father did not get it. The giver says, I gave it to your father. And the son says, you did not give it to my father. So then we say, what? We say that it's not such a dos baldin. Because the son doesn't know his father's business. So I'm not sure why the Gemara talks about just the question of the peiros. In this case, it's not a dos baldin, and the son should get it. Because I don't get the Gemara, and I really don't know the pshat. I looked a little bit around, I didn't get a pshat. That I don't understand what the Gemara is saying. There's a case where it goes to the giver, but the peiros are an escrow. What's the case? If you say the son does not know his father's business, so that's not considered dos baldin at all. The giver says, I gave it to your father. The son says, I don't know anything about that. So we tell the son, because you don't know your father's business. Or, no, yeah, you said that Kasafti ben Asati lo, and he says, no, you didn't give it to my father. If the son has no way of knowing his father's business, so it's not considered das baldin, and he should get it. We should give him not only the payers, we should give him everything. It shouldn't be an escrow. We should give him, and if you say that it's a das baldin, it's not a das baldin. It is a das baldin because he says, I know I was with my father, and you had no access to him without being with me, and I know that he never got it. So then it's a das baldin on the sons of F, and therefore the notion should get the payers. So I didn't get any havana in this Gemara. What's the case that there's going to be that the giver, it's considered a das baldin, and the giver gets back the field, but the payers are in escrow because you don't know. I have a suffix. I don't get it. I don't get the case. The father himself, I understand that the father, we talk about if it's a das baldin or not. If he just says, I don't know that you gave it to me, but it could have been he remotely gave it to him, so then it's not a das baldin, and the recipient gets it. If he says the issue is if he got it physically, and he says I didn't get it, so it's a das baldin, and the giver gets it back, and he gets the payers also because there's a das baldin. And in some case about the son, that is someplace fishy. We don't say it's not. He has business to know his father's issues, but not enough to say that he should definitely not get the payers. And therefore, we leave the payers in escrow. And I don't get the pshat. I didn't see a pshat. I don't know. New Mishnah. So we're going in the world of Tikkun Olam. That's what we're doing in this whole parak. And next parak, all kinds of Tikkun Olams. We just finished the issue about somebody. What was the case over there? That an Eved was captured, and they redeemed him. People redeemed him for an Eved, for a Ben Chorin. Over there was a question of Shimon Gamliel, and that was a question what Tikkun Olam was over there. And we went on the tangent for a couple of pages about that issue. New issue also about Tikkun Olam. Eved shall sell Rabba Apoteki, Lacheren. An Eved that his master made him to be an Apoteki for other people. What's an Apoteki? So when Jerry Abraham there, he told us that it's a word used in legal terms nowadays also. I tried to look it up, I couldn't find it. Something like a apoteki or something like that. I don't remember the legal term. And it means some kind of a contract, I don't know. I don't remember what he told us that it means. But in the Gemara, it's going to mean when you make a lien on a specific piece of, a specific thing. And the Gemara is going to say a drash. Sometimes the Gemara dashes these Greek words and says, apo tehei koi, oh, tehei koi, that the shibud should be on the specific thing. That's called, whenever a person borrows money with a star, so then it becomes a lien on all of his estate, and all of his real estate. Apoteki means that he's making a shibud on a specific thing. And it could be also maybe on Matatla. And also, we'll have to learn more about apoteki. So someone made that as Eved should be the apoteki. He borrowed $100,000, and he said that the payment is going to be from the Eved. If I don't pay you, then the Eved will be yours. That's called an apoteki. The one? No, the Eved was made to be an apoteki. Eved shall sell Rabba apoteki. An Eved that his master made him. His master made him an apoteki to other people. It means the master borrowed money, and he told the lender that my Eved is going to be an apoteki. He made a shibud on the Eved to be payment for the loan if he doesn't pay. And then the shichruro, and then the master freed his slave. He pulled the first one. And the lender comes, he wants to collect, and he says, my slave's gone because I freed him. Shua said, so the whole Mishnah, there's going to be two pshatim in the Gemara. I'll just read it, translation. Minadin, the Eved is not chayiv anything. If they Tikkun Olam, there's where Tikkun Olam comes in. Kofin is Rabba, also ben Chorin. We force the master to free him. The Kosev Shtar al Damov, and he writes a contract to pay that he owes the IOU, you know, that he owes money for his value. The Eved is free. The Eved owes money. Why does Eved owe money? He still owes money. That doesn't say no. It says because of Shtal Dava means that he writes a IOU note for the value of the Eved. On his value. This Eved writes a star that he owes his value. So over there, he writes IOU note to the master, the half a master, that he's gonna, when he gets money, he's gonna pay back. And here, the Eved, we tell the Eved that he has to write the full value about his value. Okay. Rab Shimon Gamliel Omer, ain't a kosev ela mishachar. What? Right.
And then he's free.
Right. He surely owes the money. He surely owes the money. He still owes the money. I don't have where you at. Right. Right. So it says here that they free him, they force the master to free him, and okay, everything's good. Yeah. The Mishnah is not readable so much. The Mishnah is not so readable. Okay, but it is difficult. So really, the Eved is not chayiv anything, but because of Tikkun Olam, they force the master to free the slave, and the slave writes an IOU note for his value. Reb Shimon Gamliel Omer, ain't a kosev ela mishachar. The Eved doesn't write the note; the mishachar writes the note. The freer, who's the freer? Okay, so everything is open for discussion over here. Every word come out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In this little Mishnah, there are 6 things that can be explained 2 ways. The whole Gemara is going to go throughout the whole Mishnah in 2 pshatim. Everybody probably saying the first pshat that needs some fixing up is Rav and Ula. The whole Gemara is going to be Rav, and then Ula is going to talk. So,
how are you saying?
Yeah, 6 points. One point is going to be who freed the slave, and what does it mean that who shichru? Everybody assumed who freed him. Okay, that's one thing's going to be in question. Then ein evet chayiv. Sure, that means that that's okay. Sure, that means that halacha really is minadin is ein evet chayiv klum. What does that mean? What does it mean that it's not chayiv anything? Okay, you're saying pshatim, and then there's a tikkun olam. Everything is open for question. And the third thing is what does tikkun olam mean? What is the tikkun olam? And kofan is rabo, which rabo? And kosei for Eved, or Shimon Gamliel. What's the machlokus between Tanakam and Shimon Gamliel? Who feed him? Okay. Who's losing over here? Okay. And Shimon Gamliel says that the Meshachar. So what is it? What is his reason? The Meshachar. After you know the Meshachar is, so then it's not going to be a question. It'll be the Meshachar, whatever the Meshachar was before. The one who freed, the freer. So whoever that was before, Shechru and the Meshachar was the same person, so that'll also be a question. So now everyone probably took the first shot, and there are some hurdles, but the simple reading surely is the first shot. So we start off the Gemara. So we don't know the Mishnah at all. We just know a story about a potki that was freed and it caused a problem, and there's a takana tikkun olam, and we don't know anything. So every chasa potki, yeah, Rabbi Shechru. Mi Shechru. So what's the story? Who's the one who freed him? Everybody said the Rabbi Rishon. Is that nobody else? How could there's nobody else? So you're taking Rab. I'm a Rab. So this is all going to be Rab's strat. Rabbi Rishon, the original owner, he's the one who freed him, and he messed up the lender because he took away his shibud. Sure, Sadin ain't Eved Chayv Klum the Rabbi Sheni. Menadin, the Eved doesn't know anybody anything, and he's really free because fact that he freed him does take off the shibud. Kidirova, Damarova, Hektish Chamas V'Shechru. Ain't Eved Chayv Klum the Rabbi Sheni. The Eved is not obligated to his new master because he got free, even though there was an apoteki, and the second master is coming to collect on his loan. He doesn't owe him anything because I'm a free man. Like Rava says, that shechrur, it says three things. Well, I'm interested in the last one. Hektish, number one. Number two, chametz. Number three, shechrur. These three things, mafkiim midei shibud. They break the shibud, even though there was a lien on him. This case, our Mishnah, that someone put a lien on an eved and then he freed him, so the shechur breaks the shibud. Also, another two cases that are not our subject, hektish, if something was meshubed and the owner was makdish it, also breaks the shibud. Chametz, Rashi has a case where there was a chametz that was of a Jew that was meshubed for a lien, as a lien to a goy. So also the Isser Chametz takes the shibud of the goy off. Right, I don't know well this case, but the words of Rashi are, let's go to Rashi. So then the goy and it's considered the Jew's chametz, even though the goy has the shibud to the goy, you might think it's considered the goy's chametz, and after Pesach it should be considered chametz of the goy. No, it's considered the chametz of the Jew. The Isser of chametz takes us the Isser chametz and mafkal the shibud the goy. When chametz comes, it takes off the shibud of the goy, and it's considered the Jewish chametz. And when Pesach passes by, so it's us because it's the Jewish chametz. I don't know if that's simple. Only pshat could be there's a machlokes about it, but if we could, I would skip it now because we know only need the case of shechur. Rabbi says shechur mafkiim midei shibud. So again, there was Ruvain borrowed money from Shimon, and Ruvain's slave was a lien, a potiki, but Ruvain freed his slave. So Menadin, the slave is not chayv anything to Shimon because the shibud is on. So really, the slave should say hello, goodbye to everybody, and Reuben and Shimon, Reuben still owes money to Shimon. But of the tikkun olam, there is a tikkun olam necessary. The Chachamim are scared about such a situation. It's not a good situation that the Eved goes free because the Reuben, the master, was Meshacharim. Because the second owner, Shem Yim Se'enu B'Shuk, was scared that the lender is going to find the Eved in the Shuk or in the Shul, and he's going to say, you're my slave. We don't want people going around getting a name of a slave. If he's not really a slave, really he's a free man. And this person thinks that he's a slave, and he's going to be very upset about it and call him, you're my slave. So we don't want that. The second owner, right? Then he lost his shibud, and he lent money, slave. And then he comes back, he says, he was freed. He says, what freed? He doesn't know about the chametz shechron the kiyam de shibud. You're mine. He says to them, but I own you. So we don't want that. So what do? Hopefully it's Rabbi Sheni. Also ben Chorin. We bring the Rabbi Sheni, and he writes for him a shechri. We force him to free him. Really, it's not even his. We force him to free him because we're scared he's going to call him an Eved. So we get a document that the Eved says, no, I'm not your slave. But we tell the Eved, you have to pay for this document. Because the Eved Shtal Damov, he has to write a check for his full value to the Rabbi Sheni, which is a pell. What did the Eved do? That's because the Eved we're scared that the Eved shouldn't be called an Eved, because the Rabbi Sheni would be doing an avla if he calls him an Eved, because he's not really. Allah, he's not his Eved. You don't like it, to go scream at the Rabbi Rishon, but you're calling me an Eved? So really, if we're scared that Rabbi Sheni is going to call him an Eved, he's doing a big avla. He's calling a Jew an Eved, and we should force him to write a shtar. Maybe we should just force him to write, to force him to pay for the contract. It costs $10 for the contract, but he has to pay his whole value. Why should he have to pay? Why should he have to? The evidence is free. The evidence is really a free man. We're scared. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Over there, when we're forcing him, but here the evidence says, I'm really a free man. I'm really a free. And the case you're talking about is that he really is a slave, and we're making the kind that he should get free. Here is really free. The first master, which is really mastering freedom. Second master doesn't know him. The shepherd is not giving the shiva. Thus he's going to be motzi laws. He's going to say, "Oh, my slave." So the Eved now is in danger of being called a slave. So we should protect him and force the second master, who's chashud, he's suspect, he's going to call him a slave, that he should write a get shepherd. But really, it's not a get shepherd. Really, it's a garnish. But we want to have a protection that the Eved should be able. So we should maybe the Eved should pay the $10 to write the contract, but we're going to make the Eved write $100,000 of his full value to who? That this guy shouldn't call me an Eved? I don't get it. But why should he? I don't know. This is all around. I mean, Rav is the one who is the utilized there. That Rav is the one who says that the Sheikh is mafkir midishibu. And what does Rav Shimon Gamliel say? Ein kosev, ein Eved kosev elam meshachar kosev. The original owner is the one who has to write the value of the Eved. He still owes him the money. I don't get it. Doesn't he owe him the money? The original Rav is the one who owes the money in the first place, and he never paid it. So of course he owes him the money. Why does he have to write? Why does he have to write a? Oh no. Yeah, I don't get it. Of course he has to write. He still. I mean, of course he owes him the money. Two more lines. The marking of the US line. Yes.
The original.
To the lender, the borrower has to write to the lender a document that a document of debt that he owes him the value of the Eved. Of course he does. He owes him the value of the loan. He never paid it. He never paid the loan. So I didn't think about this, but I don't get it right now. They're arguing if somebody damages his friend Shibud, if he has to pay for it. The Ma'asava Chayiv, Ma'asava Pater. So it comes out that I didn't have this. That it could be that the original borrower doesn't have to pay. It's a chiddush to say that he has to pay. Meshachar Kosev, because even though he borrowed money, borrowed $100,000, but there was a shibud. It's the Eved. The Eved is meshubah to you. I freed him. Okay, I freed him. I did you an avla. But it's not that I owe you money anymore. I don't owe you money. You collect from the Eved. The Eved is free. I don't understand how it's working. I don't get it. But that's what it sounds like. If you hold putter, so then the shachar doesn't own money anymore. And we're making a tikkun olam that the Eved should pay his value. So I don't understand how can it be that the original owner, I can understand if it's an outside party. Somebody came and the outsider, but the borrower himself, he says, he still owes the money. So I'm stuck on that. So that's one way how to explain the machlokes, the issue of our Mishnah. Someone we also learn like this, that this machlokes about damaging somebody's shibud is totally in our machlokes. Tanakama says that Masik Shibud Shachavero is Pater, and therefore the Eved is the one who writes the IOU note, and Rav Shimon Gamliel holds that Masik Shibud Shachavero is Chayiv, and therefore the Meshacher has to write that's one way to learn the Mishnah. More or less the way we would have said that Meshacher was the original Rav, and there's some tikkun olam that the Eved has to write his value. But what happened over here? Just to get the 6 points, that the original master was the one who freed him, and the Eved is not really any chayv to the sheni. He's not chayv to be a master, to be Eved to the sheni because he's free. But it's taken the olam that the second master should not call him an Eved. So we say that we force the second master to write a get shechur, and the Eved, if you hold that Masik Shavur Shachavero is Pater, so the Eved is going to be the one we're going to put the obligation to pay. And if you hold, Shmuel says no, that the original, the one who's Masik Shibud, he's the one who has to pay. That's one way to learn the Mishnah. Now goes second way. Ula is going to be arguing, and Rabbi learns the whole Mishnah differently. Every one of these 6 points is going to say differently. Ula Amar Mishachru Rabbi Sheni. That's the case. Fancy case. I don't get it. That Shimon is owned money, and the Eved is an apoteki, and Shimon freedom. Is that a good freedom? He didn't yet collect. He wasn't a slave yet. He has a shibud, but he's not yet his. And he wrote to get shechur before he collected him. If he would have collected him, he's already his slave. He did the Reuven didn't pay. Shimon came to collect the shibud. He took the Eved, and now he frees him. Okay, so he freed a slave, but he freed him before he got him. So he's really not free. Shua Sadin ain't Evet Chayiv Klum Mitzvahs. That's how he puts into the Mishnah. Ain't Evet Chayiv Klum doesn't mean he's not Chayiv money. He's not Chayiv Mitzvahs. Why? Because he's a slave. It's another way of saying that he's a slave still. Of course, some mitzvahs he is Chayiv as a slave. It means he's not Chayiv in the mitzvahs that free people are Chayiv in. He's only Chayiv like a slave. He's still a slave. I mean, Adin is still a slave because the one who freed him is not really his owner. Elam of the Tikkun Olam, but there's a Tikkun Olam. What's the Tikkun Olam? Really, he should be a slave still to the first one. He's still a slave. And if the master is going to pay, let's say he's going to pay, he pays up the chov. So he's still a slave to the first master. But since the second master who had a shibud freed him, so Yatzav Shem Ben Cholim. So he got a name of being a freed man, even though it wasn't really a legal announcement. It was false. He got a free name of a free man because somebody freed him, but the one who freed him wasn't his master. So Billy is an Eved. But people called him a Ben Cholim. Then we're going to see him once again being an Eved. It doesn't look good. We don't want it will be with a shifcha still. It doesn't look good that a man who was declared free is now still back to be an Eved. So what do? We're going to force the original master, who's the real master, to make him free. Really, he's supposed to be a slave. The first shot was opposite. That the second master, who's not a slave at all, he wrote he's gonna write to get shikha for someone who's not a slave. In this case, we're really forcing the real master, who's a full master, we're forcing him to free a slave. And the Eved we tell the Eved, but write a star because you're being freed. You're not supposed to be freed. Really, here we do understand that the Eved should write a star because he's getting freed for no reason. Because if star al dama, the Eved is going to write a contract, an IOU that he owes the money when he gets it to the original master, because he's the one who lost it. He's the one who freed him. The Eved doesn't write it. The Meshachar, who's the Meshachar? The Rabbi Sheni, the one who, for some reason, was Meshachar the Eved before he got him, and he caused the whole problem. So he's the one who writes the what? I'm sorry? Were you holding? And then who writes the star? And of course, that again, what happened over here? The Rabbi Sheni messed it up. The Rabbi Sheni is the one who gave him a get shekel, who was Meshachar him, and he really had no right to. So really, he's a slave. But we're going to force the first man, the real master, to free him because he got a name of Ben Cholim. So now the Eved is going free, and he's really a slave. And so we're going to force him to be freed. And then the original master who lost the Eved now has to be reimbursed. Who's going to reimburse him? Either the Eved, according to Tanakh, the Eved is going to reimburse him. According to Rav Shimon Gamliel, the lender is going to reimburse him. Rashi points out the reimbursement only for the money that the Eved is worth more than the chov, because he's owed the chov, so he doesn't have to reimburse him because, yeah, you owe me money, so that's already, I paid. But if the Eved is worth more than the chov, so he has to reimburse him. That it's an unrecognizable damage. Hezek Shen Nikah is a machlokes if you have to pay for Hezek Shen Nikah. So the second, the Rabbi Sheni, the lender, damaged the first one. He caused, by giving him a get shikha to the Eved, thank you, he caused the loss to the original master. He had to free a slave. So you don't see anything physical. You don't see any outright damage. The Eved is not bleeding him or anything, but that's called that he damaged the property of the first one by causing him to have to free a slave. So if you hold the chayiv, and then the second one will pay. If not, then we're going to put the debt onto the Eved. If you have to pay for unrecognizable damage, Rav Shimon Gamliel says, therefore we're going to obligate the second master because he freed the first master's slave and he damaged him. And the Tanakhama says that he's not chayiv for such damages, and therefore the second one does not have to pay. So we're going to put that obligation on the slave himself. And then how come each one of us know that the other one's pshat? Ula my time alone Rav. How come Ula doesn't like Rav's pshat, which seems to be more simple? Amalacha Sheni Rav will call a slave. It says that Kofan is Rabo. What does it say? The Sheikh will ain't Chayiv Klum. Kofan is Rabo. Kofan is Rabo. According to Rav's pshat, Kofan is Rabo means that you force the second one to free him. Really, what happened according to Rav? The first one freed. The first one freed him. And we're scared the second one is going to call him an Eved. So we forced the second one to free him. But the fact that calls him Rabbi Sheni, called Rabbi, He's not his rabbi. He's not his master at all. We're scared that he's going to call himself his master, but he's not his. So he doesn't like that word. To say that it says Kofanis Rabbi means Rabbi Sheni, Rabbi Kofanis. He called the second one his rabbi. He's not his rabbi at all. Rabbi time what's wrong with Ula's Pshat? Amalacha Sheni Meshachar Kofanis. To say that the Elam Meshachar is called the Meshachar. The Shechro is okay, but the last word in the Mishnah, Kofanis and Meshachar, he's not really a Meshachar. He was Meshachar, but he's not a Meshachar because he has no right to be Meshachar somebody else's ever. New Gemara. Itmar. Ha'osla said they are potaki lachem v'shot v'nor. Somebody made it skill to be in a potaki, that the Sheba should be on this field. And shot v'nor got flooded. It's useless. So does the lender have a right to collect from other properties? He said, I'm going to pay you from this field. And then that field got flooded. Could he collect from other fields? Ami Shapirna, Am Rabbi Yochanan, Eino Gover Mishan Nechasim. There's somebody called Ami Shapirna. The beautiful Ami. Shapir is good, no, it's beautiful. The good, beautiful Ami. Why is he called that? Has to be beautiful. So Rabbi Yochanan, and he said the name of Rabbi Yochanan, he has no right, the land has no right to collect from other Nechasim. Avu the Shmuel Lama, Gover Mishan Nechasim, he could. Rav Nachman Yitzchak says that, how could he not collect from other Nechasim? Rav Nachman Yitzchak, Bishum Dami Shapir who Amish Maitat Lo Shapira, because he's so beautiful, or he's Shapir. So he says things that are not Shapir. I mean, how could he say such a thing? How could he say such a thing that he has no right to collect from other Nechasim? Of course he does. Just because he said that I'm going to collect from this field, he forfeited his right to collect from other fields. The Tagrish Maite Damalei Lo Yelach Peron El Mizu. He meant to say only in a case where he said openly that the payment is only from this field. He specified, not that this is going to be a Piron. This is going to be the only Piron. He specified that this is the only place where you can collect from. Then Ami Shapir said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan that he cannot collect from other things. And according to this, there's no machlokas. He's saying, according to him, he's going to say, no, Shmuel's not going to say that even in this case he could collect, probably. So there's no machlokas. Tani Nami Yochi, Haose Shnei Apotiki La'acher, V'shot Fanor, Gova Mishan Nechasim, Mamalo Lo Yeh L'cha Piron Ela Mizu, and Gova Mishan Nechasim. If somebody said that this field is going to be the apoteki, and then it got flooded, so he may collect from other fields. But if he said openly, specifically, that you cannot be paid for anything else, only from this, if it got flooded, you cannot not collect from other nechasim. Two more lines. Another price also said they are poteki lebalchov or luksubasisha government mishan nechasim. Reb Shimon Gamliel Lomer balchov government mishan nechasim isha and a government mishan nechasim. If somebody made a field spin apoteki, either for any kind of balchov, anybody that is owes money to, or for ksubasisha, no difference. So they do have a right to collect from other nechasim, because like we just said, that even since he didn't specify from one, he collect from other things. And Rashi says that it's the choice of the borrower. If he wants to, he could sell these, even though he made a poteki, he still could sell it and give him the collection of other things. But if Shimon Gamliel says that it's superstition not, if the woman was promised to be paid from a certain field, you cannot sell this field and give her something else. The woman, when she makes such a condition that she wants to get a poteki, she wants to be saved, not to be able to have to go to Beis Din to verify that this field I could collect, this was not, this was bought later, this was bought earlier. She wants to have a straight way how to collect her shibud. So therefore, the Baal, the husband, has no right to sell that field that they made in a poteki, because she wants to know that that's the one she's going to collect from. Okay. There you go. Thank you.